All right, let's talk about ad angles. In this section, we're going to talk about ad angles. Like I said, might be one of the first things I focus on. A lot of times when I'm swiping something, again, this course is called Swipe Improve Profit. When I'm looking for something to swipe, sometimes just the only change I make, and as I say here, if this is going to actually work today, is sometimes I just adjust the angle. I just make changes to the angle itself, and that can transform the campaign right there. So we're going to cover a lot of these things that I am covering here are a lot of common mistakes that I see people make in their angles in the first place, in their advertorials, in their VSLs, whatever they happen to be using to promote their offer. A lot of these things are mistakes that I see. So that's what we are going to cover. Of course, the first thing is going to be one thing, one main idea, one theme. The one big idea comes from Michael Masterson. I believe he's the founder of AWAI, and he talks about how your advertisements, whatever you're writing about, should have one main idea, one main thing. The example they always give is the End of America, which was a very long-running VSL that did very well, and that has one main idea, the end of America. So a lot of times when I find an advertorial, for example, it'll be all over the place. And you can see here I say, can you narrow the focus of the niche? Can you narrow it down? And, say your angle is generic skincare. We want to focus on maybe under eye care and kind of focus in more on one focus and one concern. Because a lot of the times what you will find is that the people who actually purchase an offer might have just one specific thing. I did a video a couple weeks ago, or it might have been like a week ago now or whatever, where I was covering Dr. Gundry, who has a product that is about losing weight. It's more about health. It's about removing lectins from your body and removing foods that contain lectin. While setting that campaign up and while messing around with it and kind of just playing around with the ideas, I found that I wrote several different pieces. Some of them were just kind of generic, more about the lectin thing. Some of them were about just this one weird food that you should remove from your body, or you should stop eating so that you stop getting sick. But then what I did is wrote a few pieces that focus on several different things. And one piece that ended up working out pretty well was focusing on inflammation. I like to look for buzzwords when I'm focusing on an offer, when I'm learning about an offer. Like, what are the buzzwords today? What is everybody thinking about? So we have something like Dr. Gundry, who's promoting this product about, getting rid of lectins from your diet. And, it covers like a broad range of things. And he has a lot of claims as to what removing these lectins from your diet could do. Some of them are like, fixing leaky gut, fixing inflammation, fixing skin problems, all this other stuff. So I wrote pieces based off of all of those things. And what I found was inflammation was the number one thing. All the pieces were pretty much the same. I mean, there were very few differences between the advertorials, but just by using the word inflammation, I got a much better result by having that type of focus. And again, it has to do with buzzwords and things like that. We'll talk about that later on in this course about buzzwords and how to find buzzwords and what that even means. But just know that one thing that I like to do when I'm researching a product, especially like in health, is I like to say, what's the most common thing that people are talking about right now? Like a while ago it was keto, the keto diet. Then before that it was paleo. People were talking a lot about that. So, gluten-free was a buzzword kind of at that time. It still is today, but, at that time it became very popular. So inflammation seems to be on the rise, that word. So that's why I used it. But, that's about focusing the piece, making it more focused, giving it one main idea. And we also want to talk about the unique selling proposition. Again, with the angle, here we have the best skincare cream, which is what most affiliates will write. They'll have, some piece and it'll be like, this is the best skincare cream. If we change the angle to like a specific ingredient, we can get more specific. And it doesn't even need to be unique. It just needs to have a story. So like I say here, say you're writing about a skincare cream, what most affiliates do is they say, hey, this is the best one you can get right here. They might say it a little bit better than that, but that's pretty much what they're saying. But if we can say, hey, this is the best skin cream available because it's the only skin cream on the market that has this really rare seaweed from the south of Japan or something like that. If we can give even more detail and if we can say why it's the best, then we can kind of give it a USP, and that can make it very unique. And again, it can also sell your product better. So this is another mistake I see people make with one idea. Sometimes I've seen a lot of pieces recently where they have one idea, but again, they don't give it some sort of unique selling proposition. They don't focus on what makes the product unique. So that's what you need to do. You can come up with this as well. It doesn't even matter. Again, for skincare, I've done this a lot where If there's just some ingredient that isn't in a lot of the other ones, then I'll highlight it and I'll say this is the best one because X, Y, and Z. You can't just tell people something is the best and just say this is the best and not have an example or not have a reason. So that's what I like to clean up, is stuff like that in pieces that I'm swiping, is that I'm always looking like, do they have a USP? Are they making this unique? Are they doing something to do that? I would say 99.9% of the time they are not. So definitely something to focus on whenever you're swiping a piece as well. Next, I like to look at demographics. And again, this has to do with the angle as well. Sometimes we can just change the angle to a different demographic to focus on a different demographic, different age group, different sex, different whatever. And that can be very helpful for things like scaling. So again, using skincare as an example, normally we target women of a certain age, and again, this actually varies depending on what the product is, but let's just say 50 plus for example purposes. And how can we switch this to men, for example? And I know a lot of people who do this, and it's easy. Number one I have here is guys interested in pickup. I haven't personally promoted in this space, but I know I have a friend that has also promoted skincare to guys who are interested in pickup pretty specifically, and has been very successful. Wealthy men who want to maintain their looks, who want to be successful. A lot of guys who want to stay kind of at the top of their game. They want to look the best as well, so a lot of those guys, and also gay men as well. I have a good friend who promoted skincare products to gay men and did extremely well. So right there we have 3 ideas right off the bat that could be 3 different pieces, 3 different demographics for the same offer. So this is how we need to be thinking. We need to be thinking, how can I break this offer down into multiple pieces? How can I even use the same advertisement that I've been using that's already been successful with one demographic and just change it up a little bit and move it to another demographic? Again, I like to work smarter, not harder, and this is one way that I've been able to run the same offer for extended periods of time. My affiliate managers are always asking me, how do you run offers for such a long period of time? And this is how, right here, is I just simply take whatever is working, and I test a lot, so I have a lot of pieces that work, and then I just simply move it to another demographic, and it's just that simple. And it allows me to get the most kind of bang for my buck as well in regards to the offer itself. So that's one great way to do it. Next, we have current events here as well. This is one of my favorite methods. It can be very short term, for example, and it cannot last, but if you can tie a product into a current event, you can do extremely well. I have here examples in a bonus section. Again, towards the end of this video, we're going to have plenty of examples of current events and how you can tie in current events. I actually think maybe at the end of this video, I will do some live ones where we'll go look at the news today, and we'll see kind of what comes up there. So we want to work backwards from news stories as well. A lot of the times what you can do is if you can kind of follow the logic in your own head, or even if you write it down, if there's some news story that comes out, then you can tie in pretty much anything. And again, I'll show you tons of examples at the end of how you can kind of tie in any news story out there into getting a product. So let's use a ridiculous example. This is kind of a ridiculous example. Again, this would probably not work, but let's just say, everybody is freaking out over North Korea at this time, possibly launching a nuke and hitting the West Coast, right? I live on the West Coast, and so let's just say that we could write a piece about maybe for some sort of product that protects people from nuclear radiation, right? And we could use the news stories from North Korea about North Korea to kind of drum up some sales from that. So that's just one example, not a great example. Again, just giving you kind of one off the top of my head. The other thing we can do is we can identify long trends as well. Things like US presidents. Again, I've used presidents in the past and probably will continue to use stories about presidents. The president, doesn't even matter, can be for other countries as well. If you do your research and you find out that there's a problem with the president somewhere, or something, then that's a great long trend, because usually presidents are in office for a long time. Just think about President Trump here in the States. Regardless of how you feel about him, there's a lot of controversy constantly going on about him and things like that. So he's always in the news. So that's a great kind of topic to use to promote products as well. Depending on how you can kind of tie a product into whatever the news story happens to be. Next, we have a product focus. This is pretty easy, pretty plain and simple. Sometimes I have just taken advertorials where, people try to come up with these crazy stories, like try to come up with all this stuff about a product. But sometimes just the simplest answer is to just write about the product itself, just to write maybe a review, or to write about the product and what it can do, to write about just the benefits. A lot of the times what I'll do is, if I have a product, let's just use flashlights for example. A couple years ago, those flashlights were super popular, right? And just simply writing a piece about the flashlights, what it can do, how great it is, what type of light bulb it uses inside its little flashlight or whatever. Just doing that can be sometimes the simplest answer. It can be the easiest thing. And again, sometimes I think people in advertising, they like to make things way too complicated. It's not that hard. It's easy. You just have to kind of know what people want. But sometimes all they want is just a little bit of information. They just want somebody to say, hey, this has this, this, and this. These are the benefits. This is why you should buy it. Get it here. Done. Plain and simple. Same thing with a solution focus, just focusing on the simple solutions. What is this product going to do for me? How is it going to be a solution to my problem? Is it an easy button? Is it going to fix my problem overnight? Is it going to happen quickly? Sometimes just simply doing that can be the easiest answer. I can't tell you how many products I've promoted where I just have a solution focus, where I focus on what the solution is and why that product can provide that solution so quickly. And everything I see from all the affiliates out there promoting it is just like I said, all these crazy stories about, whatever. So sometimes the simple answer is the right answer, is what I'm trying to say. Next, everybody's doing it. Of course, here is a good one, is if you have a product that is popular, then you can just say, hey, look, everybody's buying this product. Everybody has it. You don't have it. This goes back to the Life Force 8 here. Keeping up with the Joneses is basically one of the Life Force 8. Keeping up with your neighbors, keeping up with your friends, your brother, your uncle, your brother-in-law, sister-in-law, whatever the case may be. So making it seem like they need something and, everybody else has it is also a great, great angle to take. So these are kind of like my main angles here that I use for my pieces. When I'm writing a new piece, for example, sometimes I will write every single one of these. I will write one for almost every single one of these. I will change up the angle in some way. I also wanted to talk about external factors in this video, and in this here, I just want to talk about ad images and banners. These are kind of the two only external factors that you can change as far as your advertising is concerned, especially for advertising by placement, for example, with advertorials and things like that. I'm actually going to link videos about images and about banners below, because I have better videos that are a little bit longer that I don't want to kind of put into this video. So again, if you want to learn more about ad images and banners and how you can mix those things up and how you can make them better, I will link the video in the description below.